Hi, I'm Chandler Shade, and I am here with Mrs. Gallagher, and I just have a few questions for you. She is a general education teacher. So how well prepared do you feel to teach students with disabilities and other special learning needs?
I felt pretty prepared. Our school offered a lot of training, but at the same time, you go into class and you never really know what you're going to be expecting from students with disabilities. Every day is a new day, and one day they may be perfectly fine and satisfied in class and content, and then the next day they may be having something very emotional going on. So every day is something different. However, as far as my education went, in preparing me to teach these students and learning how to differentiate, I felt pretty prepared.
Okay. And did you complete a traditional program, or did you do an alternative certification?
I did a traditional program through Tech Teach at Texas Tech.
Okay. What was your role and responsibility for teaching students with disabilities?
Well, I was I am the main teacher in the class, and so, let's see. My responsibility is, of course, to teach every student who is in my class, no matter their disabilities, no matter what they know prior to entering my class or not. I am expected to teach them all the same way, or not the same way, but being able to teach them in a way that they will learn the material, no matter what they bring into class.
Yes. So, in your opinion, what are the characteristics of effective inclusion teaching?
I think to be an effective inclusive teacher, you definitely need to know how to differentiate, because like I said, every student is different, whether that student has a disability or a special learning disability. Your responsibility is to teach each and every one of them, and in order to do that, you have to be aware of your students. The most effective thing you can do is build a relationship with that student, because the more they feel that you are on their side, the more willing they're going to be in doing the work or trying hard for the teacher. Differentiating with moving seats, having preferential seating, or knowing who that student can and can't work with, modifying assignments to where that student has every opportunity to be successful is a very big deal. And again, it all comes down to building those relationships and knowing what your students need before you're in the middle of a lesson and something bad happens. You kind of have to anticipate what is going to happen and how they're going to react to different situations.
Awesome. Can you describe the frequency and methods of collaboration between you and the special education teacher working with your students with disabilities?
So my experience with my support teacher, I haven't had the best experience with it. It was supposed to be a co-teaching situation, and I felt that in class it never really was the co-teaching method that it's supposed to be. We did plan together probably about once a week. She had other responsibilities to other grades and classes, so it became kind of an issue to where we weren't always on the same page or really quickly trying to catch her up with what we're doing. So the way that we would go about having both of us teachers in the classroom and trying to have both of us actually teach and included in the lesson is she would come in every day and start the lesson with maybe a bell ringer or the work at the beginning of class, and then I would do the lesson or the lecture, I guess, if you will, lead the lesson, and then she would interject anytime she had something to say. I wish I could say that our planning happened more often and that we were more on the same page, but that's just part of being a teacher. Everybody is busy, everybody has stuff going on, or paperwork, or days absent, and as much as we hated playing the game of trying to catch up with each other, that's kind of how it was in our situation. Now I think things have probably changed, but at the end of the day, you are responsible for the students that are in your class, and so I took care of my needs, and we would talk about students, we would discuss things, and try to implement strategies to reach kids. And if we needed to kind of separate and maybe she take half the class and I keep the other half, we would do that when it would work.
Awesome.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank
Okay.
you. In what ways are you providing effective instruction for students with disabilities?
Again, going back to that differentiation, knowing your students, the way that I'm meeting their needs is planning ahead, and that goes with planning. You really have to plan your lessons and think through, how are each of my kids going to respond to this? How are they going to interact? Are they going to get it? Do they have the background knowledge to build upon that? And so to provide that effective instruction, I really had to plan. And that goes for every lesson, every day. It's a little more work on my part, but that's how I know that I can be an effective teacher to these students, is knowing what they need, go ahead and planning for any instructional materials that they will need in addition to the regular activity, any notes that they're going to need. I try and plan for that ahead of time.
What have you found has been the biggest challenge or most challenging about working with these students?
Biggest challenge is you never know how students are going to enter your class. As I said at the beginning, that a lot of kids are fine one day, even one part of the day, they are completely fine, chill. They're happy to see you, and the next time that you see them again, they may be having an emotional breakdown, or they may be having something else that has triggered them to where they're in a completely different mood. They feel like nobody's on their side. They are against you. You never really know how kids are going to enter your class and what baggage they're bringing with you or with them, whether that's from home, whether it's from lunch, whether it's from somebody said something at recess or in another class period, and it just makes them upset. So you want to anticipate that and how they're going to react, but at the end of the day, you don't really know how what's going to enter your class. And I think the best way you can handle that is, stand by your door. Whenever kids come into your class, kind of get a read on them as they're entering, or even walking down the hallway. Okay, how does that student look? It's not always easy, and sometimes you just have to realize, class isn't going to go as well as you want, but you're going to handle it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, for sure. So starting next fall, I will be student teaching in a classroom. So what recommendations or advice do you have me to help me prepare and just be ready to teach students who may have special learning needs and disabilities?
I feel like the best thing you can do, and you'll hear it preached over and over again in your classes, is building that relationship. If you can go into your student teaching and immediately start building relationships, calling kids by their name. I've done that before where I accidentally call kids the wrong name because you have so many students. It really resonates with them whenever you can do it right, and making a connection, even if you feel silly having this conversation with them, if that sticks with them, then you'll have a kid that's on your side, and that'll make a huge difference with classroom management, with your lessons, everything. Whether that kid has a disability or not, a relationship really goes a long way. So I think on my first day of student teaching, someone told me, just go around and here's a seating chart and write their name down, kind of introduce yourself to them one-on-one. And that's what I did to try and learn some of their names. So even if I was there only once a week, I could always go back to this seating chart that I had, and I could reference their name. I could call them by name, and that is something that really works with students.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with me and answering my question.
Hope that answers them well enough.
They do.